can tell you that much.
Alright. Morning, guys, or afternoon, or evening, or whatever it is. This is episode 186. We're all here, and we're all ready to go. Chill is not feeling 100%, so we probably may cut this a little bit short, or we'll just see how we go.
Right.
Big topic of discussion is the slot machines. Oh dear. Bill is here, of course, and we'll have much to say on the subject, I'm sure. Alright, we'll be starting properly in a minute. I'm just going to tweet out. We haven't actually got much to do before we go, so it's going to be real quick. Alright, I've tweeted via OotiniCast. Poor Kuzo. He's unhappy. Yeah. Alright, Red, are you recording, please? Oh, he's not there. Bill, you recording?
I am.
Excellent. There's Clapsh. Yeah, oh dear is right. Red, are you recording? Alright, and Chill said he was recording earlier, so I say no reason not to. Let's just launch into it.
Alright. Going in 5. Let me double check my Audacity, yes. Hi, and welcome to the OotiniCast, the podcast that has obtained a complete technical readout of this station. This is episode 186, being recorded on Wednesday, January 21st, 2015. I'm your host, Chill, along with our producer, Tio. Hi, Tio.
Hey, guys.
And with us today are Bill and Red. So, Bill, what you been up to?
Well, you know, making money. That's about it. I've actually, I haven't been playing that much. I guess it's not too much of a secret if you follow me on Twitter. I've been kind of down on the game a little bit. I took a couple weeks off. I got to go to the national championship game for college football, see Ohio State win. That was a lot of fun.
Very cool.
In game, I've done nothing the past week but stand in front of a slot machine. I literally have spent every moment in the game in front of one. Done nothing else in a week. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit, but other than raiding and that, I haven't been doing much. I haven't been incentivized to do anything else. We'll put it that way.
Fair enough.
Cool.
So at least your slot machine addiction will have ended abruptly, I'm assuming.
Probably so.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Red, how about you?
I was, let's see, tore through Ravagers. In fact, we've done that twice since we last talked, I think. And yeah, that's just such an easy story mode at this stage. But still haven't passed Walkers. We tried to do Temple of Sacrifice Walkers on Monday night, and 2 of our DPS were missing, and our mechanics were perfect, and we were hitting in rage time after time after time. We actually got it down to 1.1% on one and 2% on the other, but just couldn't pull it off.
Wow.
But we'll do it in our next ops night without any difficulty, I think. We mechanically straight up perfect, just needed one of our 2 DPS back. So beyond that, I got the cartel machine. I've been absolutely thrilled with it because actually I didn't get the cartel machine, but I got a key to somebody's stronghold that does. So between Q pops and whatnot, I clicked on it because actually on my last ops I realized, oh crap, I'm out of purples. My companions haven't been giving them back to me. I've run like 6 or 7 missions and hadn't gotten a single one, and then somebody's like, dude, use the cartel machine. And then I realized, oh, that's right, I've got 200 of those purple Jawa junk in my bank from conquests already. So I went and just ran some numbers just to see some stats for myself on what the returns were like. Got 20 of the certificates, and of course made certain to hit legendary with the reputation, so that I never have to worry about that again.
Yep.
And then the only thing I got to say is I've been clearing Ravagers. What, we full cleared it 5 or 6 times now, and I still don't have a single set bonus. So I certainly wouldn't mind having. Okay, I should put that further. I haven't had a single set piece.
Oh,
let alone the bonus.
Wow. I mean, four
Yeah.
pieces drop in there, so that's unlucky.
Very unlucky. The flip side being, obviously, our DPS need it. So,
True enough.
because the healing, I've got an excellent partner for a healer, and that has been very smooth while I really learn the role. I'm very comfortable with my commando. I'm actually really psyched because tonight we're going to be going in and doing Ravagers again, but I'll be taking my Sage since I've already done all my commando. And my Sage
Okay.
at this stage with Legacy Transfer is in all 186s or 192s. So, yeah. Otherwise, I've just been having a heck of a lot of fun in the game. Just a heck of a lot of fun. Did a bunch of PvP ranked queues. They're popping like mad on the Bastion for ranked, which is blowing my mind, particularly since I'm a healer, which means there's got to be another healer for the queue to pop. But
Cool.
it's been really nice, very satisfying. I seem to be winning more than I'm losing, which is also very encouraging. I'm not in the full tier 2 PvP gear, but I have 4 or 5 of them in tier 2 now. And, most importantly, my main hand and offhand. And yeah, I am confirmed I'll be at PAX South for the entire weekend. I'm very much looking forward to wandering around in this San Antonio there. And as far the people I know of that are going to be there, of course, Brian from Bad Feeling Podcast, which I think we mentioned last week. Spencer said he was going to be there. Justin in Zors, and Michael from Death and Taxes, and Larry from the Republic. And I don't know his name in your guild, but Swotor Brett Favre on Twitch said that he's in the Utini Knights or Utini Rage guild, and he's going to be there. So I'm looking forward to meeting him. And and Pretty Little Sith is supposed to be there. So it looks like there's going to be a lot of really well-known names in the community present. I'm actually very excited to go into this cantina just to meet people that I have known through the game or through the community in one form or another.
That would be great.
And the only other thing that I really wanted to ask BioWare, that I will be going in hand to actually speak to anybody that will give me a technical answer, because I now have first-hand experience with being harassed in-game perpetually day after day after day, and not in a somebody griefing me manner, but is pretty vile, abusive, and even threatening. The in-game ignore stops working. Every single harassment bug I've put into the game does not file.
Doesn't file.
It doesn't even keep a record that I'm submitting it, and I've done it several times. And we know that they say for some privacy reason their policy is to protect the person that is vandalizing my gaming experience. And I would really like to get an answer as to why this is, particularly when their quote-unquote solutions don't even work in the game at
That
this
is
stage.
bizarre. Firstly, you're saying the ignore is not working?
It'll work on the first character, and then this person will switch, change names, spam me with some vitriol, switch, change name, spam me with vitriol, and then come back to the original one, and he hadn't been added to the ignore. Oh, haha, you can't ignore me, you beepity beepity beep beep beep, you beepity beep, and just, not working. I have his original character name in my list on the ignore, but none of the others have been added.
Well, it isn't meant to be legacy-wide, or account-wide.
No, I know. Every time he speaks to me, I hit the ignore. Well, I'm assuming it's a he. It could be a she.
But only one of the names is working, and the rest don't take.
Right.
Wow.
That
Okay, that is a bug.
sucks. Basically, in a word.
I tweeted Tate about it, and somebody asked about spam, and so I hit the ignore, and then I do it again and report it as spam every time. And the other thing is, there's no way to submit a harassment unless the character's tune is standing next to you. So you can't, there's no feature even in the game for that. The only way to do it is to type /bug, split down to under harassment, and then write a page. You can't just, in-game mail, you've got the option for spam or harassment. Yeah. But for the communications in the game, when this guy's making level 1 characters, I'm not going to go to the origin planet and hunt him down and see if I can right-click on his portrait in order to do it.
This is serious stuff. This needs to be fixed. Absolutely.
And it's gotten really bad because there are personal threats to me and my dog. It's I wasn't that bothered until he started bringing my dog into it.
Yeah.
And now he's stalking me into my Twitch stream and everything else. It's getting out of control.
Creepy as hell.
Yeah.
So that is totally my question that I would like to know. Because as it stands, flat out, every answer we've been given, and now from my personal experience, every mechanism they have in line in this game is to protect the abuser and to help to victimize other players in the game.
Right.
So.
Okay. Wow. All right. Tio, how about your week?
We'll start with rating, which I did with the Aussie group, the Random Rioters. We did the Ravagers. We did a full clear of that. We had to pug a DPS, and that went reasonably well. But the DPS, this person refused to join us in Mumble on our Mumble VoIP server, instead saying, you guys should use something called Dolby Axon, and basically refused to join our Mumble. He just said, use that, it's free. Why doesn't everyone use that? I never heard of it. So I would be interested in if anyone has any experience using Dolby Axon. I did actually download it, but I didn't actually try to use it. So where did this come from? It's not one of the big three, as far as we know, which is Mumble, TeamSpeak, and Ventrilo. Anyway, in our own rating, we cleared story mode, the Ravagers. I think it took us like 30 minutes or 35 minutes. It was blindingly quick, so we just blew through that. And then we went into Temple of Sacrifice, got through the Walkers, we one-shot that. It was, again, with the nerfs to the AoE damage and the fact that we got through it anyway, it was really easy. We just breezed through that and then ran into the brick wall, which is the Underlurker. Now, this is the Underlurker with the new bugs. So, it didn't work out too well, though we're really suffering from the AoE damage and being able to heal through it. The strat for dealing with it is fairly solid in terms of getting around the issues with cross mechanic, and we were getting green crosses fairly consistently when people could tell they left from their right. We're going to have to work on that. Anyway. So there is a further fix in game update in patch 3.0.2a, which was deployed last night, and so this week we are going to, I believe, get through it solidly. So I'm hoping this week we'll do Ravagers again, we'll clear Temple of Sacrifice, and then we'll see. We did try, after getting sick of the Underlurker bugs, we did try the hard mode first boss in Temple of Sacrifice on hard mode, and mechanically it's actually quite challenging. From a tank's point of view, it's a pain in the ass, to be perfectly honest, but I think it's doable. So, but the issue we were running into was our DPS wasn't high enough, basically. So that's just something we're going to have to work on. But clearing both operations on story mode will get us all the set bonuses we need. Everyone's got at least 2 pieces at this point, moving towards 4 pieces. So, as well as more or less 192s in all slots for everyone at this point. So anyway, we should do well. Otherwise, see what I did do was I had started the HK 51 mission series on my Commando, who was level 55. Moved into 56 just by doing the opening stuff and Forged Alliances, and I was doing it the old-fashioned way, so I did the Theoretica, and I hunted down all of those components one by one, by myself, and without anyone else looking. It really is painful, not going to lie. I could just spend the 350 cartel coins to unlock him, but I'm fucking cheap. So I did actually get him on my Commando. In addition, I did one set of weeklies on 3 characters to get myself a couple of Treek sets of the new 192 companion gear, and a set for HK, though as Pez says, the droid parts you can craft, the 186 droid parts, the purple ones are actually better than the 192 gear you get from the companion kits, so I'll probably make those instead since I've already got the schematics for all of those hurried. And that's pretty much it. My next goal will probably be to level something else. Probably the Commando, now that he's got HK, or probably my Marauder, actually. I'll bring him up to 60. Anyway, that's my week. Over to you, Joel.
All right. First, a shout out to the chat rooms. RPGs here. Belazar, Caps, Slapshot27, Delphine, Gas Guy, Ghana, Carmen, Canine, or K9 maybe, Lujo, Therona, Trig PT, Rye Raider, Beware 2, Eric Z, Ferris Terran, Force Chuckle, Random Name, Slappy Roving Guns, and Sukai Baru, and from Red's stream. Can you move? I can't see the first letter, Red. Can you move your pointer?
You do not see OotiniCast stream, right?
There we go. RTSZ21, Ventley, Fascinate Harbinger, Higister01, Too Bad 64, Rylock, Max SS81, Abadacious, and Highland. So hi everyone. Let's see. Mostly did PvP this week. Started up streaming again. That was fun. I now have all the basic PvP gear on my character and starting to work on the ranked comm gear. Still feels a little weak, but at this point, I'm switching out like 186 and 192 gear that was augmented for, 168 gear that just has the expertise on it. So now that I'll be starting to get the ranked gear, that should ramp up pretty well. And I'll also be adding augments when I get the ranked gear as well. Bought a few packs a couple off with CC with cartel coins, and also a number off the GTN no slot machine. Did get the Acrid Lizard. That was kind of a fun mount, so that was kind of cool. And I'm glad, I'm glad that there's other ways to do the slot machine, because I don't think I'm gonna have much luck getting that. So, and finally I did the Yavin weekly, and that was kind of cool. So I got the gear, and I've thrown it on Treek, and now she's all geared up. That's kind of cool. Pretty basic. So let's move on to the tip of the week. And first tip is from NDBBM, and let's see. The tip is, don't trash your extra Rishi idols. They are selling on the GTN.
Now, the Rishi idols are the decos that we've been getting in our mail on each new character. So at least some people won't have access to it, I guess, or they want to buy them up so they can fill it out. You could just create a character, level 1, find a mailbox, and pick one up, and then delete it and repeat.
Right. Didn't you have to have access at the time that 3.0 dropped or something like that?
Was it a pre-order bonus or just anyone? Well, it could be.
I can't remember.
Okay. That would explain. Yeah.
Yeah, because we got the first one pretty early, so, and then we just got extra ones. All right, go ahead and grab the second there, Tio.
Our second tip is from Darket of the Defenders of the Republic Guild on the Harbinger. During the Temple of Sacrifice operation, the Underlurker boss, which we know only too well, our raid group has found a few strategies that help, especially since the high number of bugs on this fight. Often we put a raid marker over one character, a DPS, from each raid frame column for the healing and DPS. This allows each side, left and right, to stack on the person to assure they are in the cross. That actually is a great idea. We should do that. Pick whoever from any given group who can quickly tell their left from their right, and make it their job, and then everyone else can just follow them. His second point.
That's not me. Don't follow me.
And Lujo in the chat room is saying that they got the Rishi idols even though they didn't pre-order.
Okay, cool. His second point was, when in the cross, we often have everyone jump at least once to help the server know the character's exact position, just in case the server didn't get the character's position properly, as in the same way that you have to jump when you get out of an AoE sometimes to convince the server where you actually are. Now that's interesting. I know Red is a big proponent of jumping at the moment, so hell, why not?
It works.
In fact, yeah, when you jump, rub your stomach 3 times. That may help too. You never know. Pat yourself on the head. Whatever.
It straight up works. I know that the difference between damage being taken from people and I see them on the screen in the exact same spot. When they jumped, they didn't die. When they didn't, they did. So I don't know what the syncing between server and client is, but it definitely seems to do what it does.
And could be better. And his third point was, we also have found that if you're using a Vanguard tank during the cross phase, if the Vanguard uses Sonic Round with a Sonic Rebounder utility, it reflects up for work and deflects the damage from the cross. this can help the healers a lot. Some can be done with the Empire. Same can be done with the Empire side equivalent, which I don't know what that is. We use our Vanguard tank Turg uses riot gas, which similarly mitigates the damage. Maybe this is something else they've got. Vanguards are so OP at the moment.
I have to check that out.
Now, one side note to this, if any adds are up, the reflect might be absorbed by the ad's blast or melee hit if you're in range rather than the cross. So in other words, you could be taking damage from the ads as well, in which case you may be protected from that rather than the cross damage.
Okay.
Anyway, now, there was a further commentary on this from Madmar. As you might know by now, on the cross phase, it doesn't matter who stands where, as long as there is 3 on each side and 1 front and back. The reason the tanks are the front and back is that's where the most damage is. We use 1 tank up front and a Merc DPS in the back. The symbols that go up are a guide to the best setup. Now that's interesting. That means that even though the symbols indicate 1 healer, 2 DPS each side, it's actually probably not necessary. You can just mix it up however you like. I mean, it makes sense because you can get some AoE healing happening on each side, whatever, but so just keep that in mind. And you can run with 1 tank and an extra DPS, which is pretty much where we were heading anyway. So yeah, thank you for that, Dackett, and also Madmar.
All right, third tip from Flox of the Red Eclipse server. I have a tip for you that I use all the time in my stronghold. When you type /stuck in your stronghold, you always end up at the same spot. I started using this as a comfortable transportation method, since you don't have to be stuck to use it. Especially in the Tatooine stronghold when I had just too much sand in my shoes and wanted to get back to the balcony really quick. So just remember where you end up after using /stuck, and then you can use that as a quick travel point. Very clever.
Agreed.
Yeah, I didn't know you always end up at the same spot, so there you go. And by random allotment, the winner is Dackett of the Defenders of the Republic Guild on the Harbinger. So congratulations, you're the winner of a Tonfon code, courtesy of BioWare, and a new OotiniCast provided Cartel Market Pack from the latest shipment. If you'd like to have a chance to win the same, please send your tips to OotiniCast@gmail.com by next Wednesday. And that brings us to the holofeed. Tio?
Alright, let's start with Game Update 3.0.2a. Now, it's all about the slot machine, basically. So, as people discovered, we had some comments from the community. Troja, the contraband slot machine is too addicting. It reminds me how much I miss the nightlife event. Don't we all, to some extent? And Ari got one for our Utini Guild flagship, the Starcrawler. She said we'll be needing a Gamblers Anonymous meetup shortly. And Carmen got one for the pub side as well, for the Vis Fidelis.
Very cool.
Now, we actually had a post from Musco ahead of the patch, and what it gave us a bit of a rundown on. Actually, no, let me back up. We had a post last week from Eric Musco, community manager, talking about the slot machines, and the points he made was the slot machine is not bugged. Why would people think it's bugged? Well, the returns were, shall we say, generous. Very, very, very generous. We talked about it a bit last week. There is an excellent discussion on this in the latest SWTOR Escape podcast, where Max talks at length about this. Yeah, and he put some numbers out. I've subsequently calculated some numbers I'm sure Bill had not long after the machine came out. It was... Bottom line, the Jawa Junk is ludicrously cheap to obtain, far cheaper than running the crew mission skills. It effectively obsoleted running the crew mission skills, particularly slicing and diplomacy and treasure hunting and underworld trading. It was just, there was no reason to.
And not only far cheaper, but far faster. Like, even if it were slightly more expensive, it's so much faster. It's worth it to, when you're trying to get ready just before your ops night or something.
Yep. Now, Musco went on. It is 100% not an exploit to use a slot machine. I don't know who would think it was, but there you go. So it's not bugged. It wasn't bugged, and it is not an exploit. Even said,
right, because it's another box in the game that's giving you free loot. they're probably terrified now after not being told for a month that it wasn't. Yeah.
Now, he says, if you feel the desire to sell access to your stronghold, completely up to you. And as a reminder, don't scam anyone, because that's bad. And, of course, I guess that was a thing last week. It won't be anymore, but we'll get to that. And he says they added slot machine as a fun idea based on the positive feedback from the nightlife event. So spend those credits to your heart's content, and everyone did, as Bill was saying earlier. He did nothing but, and the numbers indicate why.
Well, and despite the fact that, okay, yeah, you can get those purple items for way too cheap. I mean, everybody can agree on that. Besides that, it's a really cool new item as a decoration that they've added in with a new mechanic and an interactive component that we haven't seen in decorations except for rarely. It's actually a really, really cool concept. Maybe a little bit sloppy in implementation.
Well, yeah. You know, if I was being a little bit cynical, I would say that the numbers of the probabilities for generating the various junk were just test numbers that they put in, and they didn't actually adjust it to what they should have been when it went live. Maybe they were exactly as intended and they just hadn't thought it through. What do you think, Bill? How could this possibly go live with the effect it had on the economy?
I think the word that I've seen thrown around, and I think I agree with it, both the implementation and now the correction, is haphazard. I think they've shown since the last expansion and the decisions they've been making, there's been a philosophy shift, for one, in that BioWare, want to make items more accessible to a casual gamer. So they are purposely making decisions about crafting, depending on your take, to make it easier or cheaper to get the same thing that you could in previous expansions and tiers would be much more expensive. They're purposely trying to get it so more people can get into the market, but that's actually doing more harm than good, I believe, long term to the game. You can see that with the crafting mats on Yavin. I would still say that's ludicrous. That can't be as intended. They're going to say it is, and I don't know if that's ever going to change, but the green mats, it already has made scavenging obsolete. There's no reason for me to ever run a grade 11 scavenging mission outside to get the white pieces that I need to craft anything.
Yeah, that's the only ones I use them for, too.
Otherwise, you're wasting time and money doing something that you could go out and get for almost no time at all.
Yeah.
So I think that was what Eric was saying here as well. They weren't happy with the rarities of the purples, which this is where I go back to I'm confused about, because it was tested, feedback was given multiple times that the rarities of the purple items were not in line and they were too rare. That feedback has been consistently given for a long time since this new tier has been out there. So they had an idea of how to address that. I don't think they really thought through the math when they did it, and it blew things up. And I think that's how we ended up. I think their head was in the right place. Their intention wasn't to take a midlife from 30K or 40K down to 5, which is what happened. That wasn't their goal. It was maybe lower it from 30 to 40 to 15 to 20. And instead, they just completely obliterated the market because they didn't think it through. I can't explain why that is. It's not hard. It's back of the napkin math, really. It's not like we are a casino. BioWare is not an actual casino that has to worry, about their losses. This is digital stuff. It doesn't cost them money. They're not
Right.
going to have to be to the 1,000th% to make sure that they're getting the returns they need. It's for fun. It is a game, and I think that when they put, as much as what Tio's saying, when you put those numbers out there, like, well, let's see what happens. But I would think they'd have a simulator to be able to run 1,000,000 spins of that machine in an instant and get them the data as to actually what that does. I can build that in Excel. I do like slot machines. I mean, you guys have seen that firsthand.
Indeed.
In order to understand probabilities about 3 years ago, I actually built my own slot machine. I set out to understand how they worked and the inner workings, going all the way back to the old 3-reel and to the new digital that you go up to 5-reel, and understand how the different random number generators work. And that's a lot of why I rail on the random number generator that SWOTOR uses, because it's not at all random. But so the probabilities come easy to me. Like, I can look at those numbers and immediately tell you what the actual payouts are going to be without having to run 10,000. There's a lot more people out there like me, and the ones that's what they're going to do. I mean, you're going to have a whole host of people taking advantage of this. That's just the nature of gaming and game theory and everything we do, where everybody's looking for a little bit of advantage and everybody's going to jump on it.
Yep, and they did. Big time. Anyway, in this post, Musker did say they do hear the concern from many of you around the effects of the Java Junk's drop rate on the economy, and they're going to look at it and make changes accordingly. And he'll let us know when he knows more. Now, we did then get a post yesterday. Now, Bioware were away on Monday because it was Martin Luther King Day in the US, and on Tuesday he posted about patch 3.0.2a, which was deployed on Wednesday morning US time, and just the changes that they made. We'll talk about the item rarity borders. This is in the legacy bank. And we got some comments like from Ducky Sand saying the border color on the item should be an option to turn on and off. Agree with me, it does look better and cleaner. I know most of the item icons of stuff that interest me, and I found it way easier. And Chong said, I like the items without the color borders. Yeah, though when you're actually looking for something, having the border color indicating its quality does make it a little easier to track down. I have subsequently found, even though aesthetically it's actually kind of nice. Anyway, that is now fixed, and in 302A. They made a couple of other fixes. We also mentioned, we have already mentioned the Underlurker fix. He will no longer rush extremely quickly back to his target after leaping. Now, they're not claiming he's completely fixed, so that's just one change, and that does seem to be what was screwing us up. So it'll be interesting to get in there and try it out, just to see if it is better now. Who knows? No more getting stuck in Blood Hunt if someone dies to Joss or Valk Baroa, which is second encounter in there. So I didn't even know this was a thing, because I haven't really gone back and done it. Okay. So yeah, anyway, that's fixed. And there was also a hint. There was also a exploit fix. Malafar the Savage, that's the first boss in the Temple of Sacrifice, has a new Frustrated Roar ability and now deals damage to all players participating in his Temple of Sacrifice encounter if he reaches 80% health and is unable to reach a target. This sounds very much like Nephra, and the pathing issue with that and the fix they made to deal with it. I had no hint that this exploit existed, which is good, which means it hadn't really propagated very far, so it looks like they've attempted to fix that, and pathing is still a thing. So anyway, however, the big change, of course, in 302A was to the slot machine. And so anyway, Musker did talk about this prior to the patch going live. So when we were going into 302, he said they wanted to make grade 11 materials, that's the stuff you can buy with the Java Junk, etc., more accessible to more players than they were at the time. As you know, we simultaneously put in the contraband slot machine, which afforded you a fairly good chance to get Jawa junk and other Jawa vendor scrap parts. And when he says fairly good, it's basically was a 10% chance to get each individually. So 30% of the time, you would be getting some kind of Jawa junk. That was what it was prior when 302 went live. Anyway, he says it had two effects. Had the risk of taking the greater level material costs in economy in the long term to a price below where we would like them. And hell did it do that.
Derp.
The price crashed. And it also created a situation where it could be more profitable to completely ignore crew skills by using the slot machine. And that's true. Absolutely true.
You know, the irony is that it actually allows preferred players who have only 2 crew mission abilities to actually perform as though they were subscribers, because you didn't need the third at all whatsoever.
True enough, true enough. Of course, you had to have access to a slot machine, which wasn't that hard. Give people were sharing keys.
Well, and guilds had them on their ships too.
Yeah. Though only one person could use them at a time. Anyway, Musco said, with those in mind, we decided to make the following changes, which went into 302A. Drop rate on all Jawa scraps has been greatly reduced. Drop rate on the contraband reputation items has been increased. To ensure the slot machine is still an awesome item to strive for, they've added a faction-specific walker mount as a very rare drop. And they have also increased the cost of each slot machine coin from 500 credits to 750. So it was always their intent, apparently, that the coin cost would increase over time as we add more slot machines that accept the coin. Now, at the moment, the coin is named the contraband something coin, so that implied that it would only be usable in those machines, though this does, as who was it? As Lujo said in chat, does imply that the same coin will be used for multiple machines, based on that wording at least. So that's nice. So for those of you who, before the coin cost went up, went and filled your cargo bay with coins, Kuze, maybe it wasn't such a bad investment after all, before the price went up. So anyway, in the patch note itself, it says the Jawa junk drop rate has been reduced and they add the walk amount. Now, they obviously have not told us what the probabilities are. The numbers are being published by people who are trying it out and sampling the drop rates and from other sources as well. So we won't spoil it for you. However, let's just say that in Kuze's words, contraband slot machines are utterly worthless now. I'm normally not a hater, but it's bad when you can't even fix a slot machine. So he's a little put out by the changes. And shall we say the changes to the Jawa junk drop rate were substantial, really, really substantial, as in a couple of orders of magnitude substantial. So, yeah.
It's not only that too, it's the cartel certificates. So that's another thing. We didn't talk about that at all. I had, thanks to Charlie, seriously, thanks Charlie, I appreciate it, has somehow gotten me hooked on opening hypercrate after hypercrate after hypercrate. I've, since 3.0, I have basically, I did the, again, quick math, since 3.0 I have returned off the GTN as well as leveling and stuff like that about 120 million credits. That's what I've earned since 3.0. I donated 25 million to get the Empire Guild ship. I've given I had another Christmas where I went to the leveling planets and handed out 100,000 credits to every brand new tune that was on Tython and Ord Mantell just all day long. I just give money away. I've started buying hypercrates. I have a price on the GTN. When they fall below a certain price, I buy them. Sometimes I hold them and resell them so I can make even more money. And other times I just get bored and I open them. And now I have all this stuff in all of my... I'm to the point with 22 characters, I don't think I have any space on any of my cargo holds. I think they're all filled at this point. But through all of that, I would say I gotten about 30 to 35 cartel certificates. In the past 5 days, I've gotten 150 off the slot machine.
Wow.
So if I've spent, we'll say, on the slot machine, I did quick math, I've spent like 750,000 credits total over the past 5 days. On the hyper crates, I probably spent 30 to 40 million. And I was talking about this when we were talking about it previously. I think the drop rate was way too high on it. And then I did the math. When I did the math of how many hyper crates I opened, how many items per hyper crate I got, the drop rate was almost identical between the slot machine and the hyper crates. But the cost is nowhere close per credit because it's so much cheaper to play the slot machine. But the drop rate was almost identical. So I at least know, I think that's where they got the drop rate in the cartel certificates originally was, I think it was the same exact drop rate, but it's not it's still apples and oranges. You can't compare the two. Opening a pack is a lot different than buying the 500 credits and spinning a wheel over and over and over and over and over again. I can do one of those things ad infinitum, and the other one I can't without spending a lot of money.
They certainly did change the drop rate of the cartel certificates as well.
Yes. And so I actually, looking at what's been out there and around and people are speculating, I think they made another mistake. I think they made a mistake with their decimal points when they updated this in a hurry. I think the rates were supposed to be 1 decimal point over when they did this.
They're off by a factor of 10, is what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. I don't know. It's just as Kuze has said, they've made them worthless. They've gone from making it to the best thing ever in the world to now making it, it's absolutely no reason to use. If the rough math of what people are reporting is to be right, I give Chill a quick, how long did it take you to get a Rancor off a slot machine? How many millions did you spend?
It was a long time, yeah.
If it's to be believed, it's 90 times harder to get this mount.
Wow.
In fact, what the number given was when there's a particular asteroid that's going to approach Earth in 2032, we've got more chance of the Earth being wiped out by that asteroid than you putting in a coin and winning the mount. So, yeah, that was from Squirtle Potato on Reddit.
So I do believe, I think they made a mistake. I think they made a mistake on the decimal point on those. Even then, if you move it by a factor of 10, it's still not really that great. It was better the way it was. Personally, I like I said, I've been doing nothing but doing that. That was going to wear thin. It was starting to wear thin last night as I knew this patch was coming, and I sat there for, I am not kidding, hours on end just clicking every 6 seconds nonstop. It was getting kind of old, and that would wear off. But it was better that way than it is now. Now it doesn't make any sense at all whatsoever.
One extreme to the other, yeah.
Right, and they're not, if it's to be believed, what we're saying is their goal was to lower the prices. That's not going to work. The prices are going to go right back to where they were, because the drop rates are going to go back to people running the missions, and you're going to get the same exact rarity that we had before, which we all can agree is probably a little too rare than it should be.
Though there are people doing Conquest, and now they can use their Java junk from that to purchase the mats. So that will bring it down some, just nowhere near as much as it was from the slot machines.
Yes, I would say as well that a lot of that, the Conquest, the people that get those from Conquest, being one of those being me, I always make sure that I hit my point total so I can get all of that stuff, and I have been banking them for a long time, and I was already sitting on some. Now I've went up by a factor of 10 by how much I was sitting on over the past week.
I'll bet.
But for me, I'm holding it for a Conquest achievement. So when it is a big crafting week, I can go in and cash those in to get mats, so I can turn around, make stuff for free in order to get the conquest rewards again.
Sure.
So it's not really, all of those conquestors are very much thinking it's very similar. They're actually using all that to actually use the conquest, not to actually sell in the market. Some are, some aren't. I think it's a pretty small bump.
I guess we'll see. But I guess our advice would be, if you're after anything but rep items for the Contraband Resale Corporation, you're probably wasting your time using the slot
And the worst
machines.
part, it was pathetically easy to get to Legend anyway.
Yeah.
I hit Legendary with just getting 10 certificates. So.
Well, that's a good question. Do you think that, knowing that they've hinted that this is going to come out for other packs as well, that's certainly the hint that they put out beating around,
Sure.
is this going to affect sales of packs? There's been some discussion about that. There's some claiming the bait and switch on this pack from the slot machine. People were buying a bunch of these packs to get the slot machine. Now they have the slot machine. They've spent real money. Now it's utterly worthless. Those people are hurt by it, as well as, I've been buying hyper crates to build up my reputation. Do I stop doing that now? Because I know in the future the Bounty Brokers one is going to come out in 6 months, so why would I go back and buy those packs when they go on sale? I could just wait for the... So is it...
But
what do you,
not everything on those vendors is let's see. Not everything in those hyper crates is included on those vendors.
Yeah.
For instance, Revan's mask. If
Yes.
you want to unlock it in collections, you still have to have every other piece of gear, but the mask is the only one that's available.
Yeah. So there is that. But for reputation,
also-
so you're right. There is no reason to buy the crates anymore if these machines
reputation,
are available.
It could actually push for the crates themselves being more valuable because they're going to have a higher chance of giving you those certs, and you can sell those certs for a lot because now everybody's going to have access to that vendor for their reputation.
That's a good point.
Have a little bit more competitive environment there.
Wow, any pack really, given the certs come out of everything.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Let us move on because Chill is.
Gee, I think I'd better call it good here. I'm really not feeling very good at this point.
All right, how shall we do this? All right, Chill. What I'm going to
Sorry about
do.
this.
That's fine. We may as well let's just run the outro. Or do you just want to bail and I'll just do the rest?
Either way, I can do the outro if you want me to.
All right, read the outro. And just leave a pause for the Utini Rage. Because I've got one.
always do.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. All right, that's a show. If you'd like to play with us in the Utini Knights Guild on the Republic side of the Harbinger server, or in our Guild on the Empire side, do a /C join Utini to join the Utini channel. Then ask for the quiz that lets us know you're a fan of the show. You can email questions and comments about the show to utinicast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter using @utinicast. You can find contact details for all of us on our website, utinicast.com, which includes how to subscribe to us using iTunes, Stitcher, and the rest. We record the show live every Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Go to utinicast.com/live to find out how to join in. Our theme song is from Mevio's Music Alley. Check it out at music.mevio.com. That's MEVIO. And thank you to the chat room, and thank you, Bill and Red.
thank you.
God.
That's funny. All right, I'll make sure this gets into the Dropbox, and then I'll head out.
Thank you, Chill.
Thank you.
Hope you feel better.
Thanks. Take care, guys.
All right. All right. Leave a little.
Oh, did you want to do a quick here or whatever?
Nah, it's all right. I'll work it out. It's all good.
Okay. Catch you later.
So, yeah. All right. Where were we up to?
No, we are not ending the show. Chill is just doing wrap up. We are continuing. Do not leave.
Yeah, we'll keep rolling on. Though, let's see. Yeah, it won't take too long to get through the rest. Just one sec. All right, let's just see what else happened in the news.
Did Bill
Go
say
ahead.
how long he thought it would be for the market to correct itself after? I mean,
No.
basically, these things are essentially worthless, but we do have a glut of materials, and the glut of materials is compounded by the fact that people have, myself included, hundreds of these Jawa junk pieces stockpiled anyway that they're going to be now buying level 11 mats off of the same vendor that the cartel thing was using. How long do you think until everything kind of evens itself out? And I would assume the prices settle a little bit lower now that people have an incentive to be using those Jawa vendors anyway, with their conquest rewards being unchanged.
I would say unless they add new recipes for conquest using grade 11 mats, it's never going to normalize until there's a new tier. This tier is completely messed up because of this. It's not ever going to get back. You're right. It will settle in at some point, but the amount of items out there that are stockpiled are huge at this point.
Right.
There's all kinds of people that were doing the same thing that I was, and there's a bunch of it stocked. And it's from what I've been talking about for over years. Like, come on, it's still frustrating to me. People who we've debated back and forth, and all the podcasts have talked about it, about pricing on the GTN and undercutting each other, and that isn't going to change. So with literally thousands of people having huge gluts of stockpiles and constantly undercutting each other, the smart people are not going to sell anything. They're going to sit back and hope that it comes in. And I honestly, I've said over the past couple weeks, I've been dialing back more and more about how much I was selling. I've sold a lot of stuff since 3.0. That's obvious by that figure I threw out. At any given day, I would have as many as 1,000 open items on the Harbinger alone. I would probably buy as many as 200 items a day, mark them up and resell them. It's a massive amount of market making going on. And as I've said, my inventory's full. I can't create any more characters. I don't have any more cargo bay space. So if it's not stackable, I can't buy it at this point. I'm full. And I don't know how many other people are in that, but with what's been happening over the past week, there's been a lot of people stockpiling a lot of stuff. I don't see it ever getting back to where it was or close to it. I think it's going to be pretty cheap for a while because people are just going to keep feeding them in. Now, I could be wrong because people do tend to get excited and get scared and just dump everything. That could happen, and it could normalize faster, but I don't think it'll be a long while.
So for those of us that only use it to actually craft things, yes!
No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I could care less about making money. I might actually start watching the GTN now for it, because I have, literally since 3.0 came out, I haven't bought or sold a single thing on the GTN. If prices are going to stay super low like this, and it's something that I can at least keep in mind in the future, I don't need to run missions. I can actually buy them off the GTN reasonably.
And that's one of the other frustrating sides of, again, when we talk about some of the decisions that they've made to make things more accessible, the 186 market is what this stuff goes to. I mean, crafting hilts, barrels, armorings, mods, enhancements at the 186 level. Yeah, the 192 level matters too if you've RE'd something that you've got legitimately, hopefully, and just selling it. But the market for that stuff has been severely now hurt by adding the companion gear that's at the 192 level. It's not itemized perfectly. It's not. You can do better, especially for the droids. For HK, you can actually still do better.
Yeah.
But for the average player, the difference between the 192 gear you get from the weekly and the crafted stuff is not that big. It is not going to be earth-shatteringly different to pay out hundreds of thousands of credits to buy companion gear, whereas before it was necessary. You really, if you wanted to have everything, you would be buying it, and it has hurt those markets as well. I mean, we've talked about other things that you guys have talked about, other things that have hurt it. There's been a lot of beat downs to the 186 market since 3.0 launched, and there isn't much of a market for the 192 gear. There's not that many people buying it. So I think that's the other thing, is there's not a lot of demand going into this because nobody needs the stuff that you can craft. You can craft it for yourself, but honestly, it's easier to go run the weekly and get your 192 gear for your companions than it is to craft it for yourself.
Indeed. All right, let's see. Now, actually, I'm going to consider that our discussion, by the way. So what I've got for our discussion this week, I'm going to postpone till next week, given how much we talked about that and looking at the time. So let's see, I'll finish the news, we'll do the feedback, and call it good.
Can I just add a cautionary? It's crafting, it's the GTN, there are credits involved, but there's a whole game to go out and play. Rather than having to do what Bill was doing the last week, just click on a machine. Now the whole game opens itself back up to you to play. And remember, that's the whole point here. And also, most people were probably unaware that these machines were even in the game. They weren't paying that close attention. Just enjoy the game.
That's good advice, regardless. Okay. All right, moving on with the news. Dark Projects. We may have commented previously, but they messed up the schematic for the Dark Project MK1 that required the it initially required the synthetic energy matrix, or they messed it up somehow. They replaced it with the expected perpetuating power cell, but as of 3.0, when Shadow of Revan launched, it was back to synthetic energy matrix. So they've said, yep, this is screwed up, and they're aiming to get it fixed in game update 3.1, whenever that is. So in theory, it could be in a couple of weeks. So something they said implied it would be a month from 3.0.2. We will see.
I can't believe that this has been going on. I checked, when I saw this today, I checked my Twitter, and I had tweeted Tate about it on December 17th. That's after I'd posted twice on the forums, put in a bug thread. It still amazes me. We're talking 6-8 weeks, 4 weeks from a tweet to get any response on it, and then we're looking at another month to fix a bug that was already introduced and fixed once, leaked back in, and is now being fixed again. I would have to say it benefited me. I'm not going to lie again. I was ready for it. I had about 300 synthetic energy matrix just sitting in my...
Of course.
I'm out of them, so we need to switch it back soon.
All right, well, 3.1, so it's probably only a weeks away. So, shame you didn't stockpile more.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Speaking of Game Update 3.1, it is... They had their second update towards the end of last week. They have added 2 new hard mode flashpoints. Surprise, surprise, the Battle of Rishi and Blood Hunt, the 2 tacticals that came in Shadow of Revan. So we will have 6 hard modes to choose from. Nothing new, it's
That's
just
much nicer.
all tacticals. Yeah, so good, that's fine. The first 4 are all challenging enough in their way, and even with the bugs in some places, but having those 2 new ones to play with is good.
Question, are there any that you have not fully cleared yet?
Of the existing
bonuses? Yeah.
Oh, bonuses, no, I haven't done much hard modes this week, so I haven't really tried.
Okay.
I cleared them all, of course, just not tried the bonuses. Now, the other thing we talked about last week, just after we published the show, in fact, before we published the show, after we recorded, they did indeed change the improved mounting perk to be legacy-wide at the same price, 2 million credits or 400 cartel coins. So that means we got what we wished for, basically. That one unlock, 400 cartel coins. You do that without even thinking about it. You get the improved mounting legacy perk, all your characters, which allows you to mount while moving or force speeding or whatever. It's fantastic. So,
Dude, and the conversations going on the PvP servers about how to utilize this strategically in open world are awesome. I don't think
I'll
it's going to
bet.
be any kind of broken. It's just going to be different and really fun.
So I see that response. Is that too cheap then? Did they go the other way on this too? They went from way too expensive to way too cheap?
No, the prices are the same, aren't they? It's just that it's legacy-wide rather than per character.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
So should
I
they
mean,
mark it up when they switched it?
it seems the same as Rocket Boost. It's about the same, right? Well, I guess you had 3 prices. You know what? They probably should have done 3 tiers, like, but I don't know how they could have broken it down, I suppose. I don't know. I mean, they could have easily jacked the price up on the Cartel coin price. I'm still going to pay in-game credits because I don't use Cartel coins. But
I'm not paying 2 million credits for anything. But they could make that 1,000 cartel coins, and I would pay it.
it would be worth it. Yep.
I'll send you the money.
No. All right. They also talked about in the class balancing. Then they were looking at assassins and shadows. The tanking discipline there. They did the tanking discipline for guardians and jugs last time in the first update. They made some changes there, again focusing on DPS and survivability. And then, as of maintenance, where they deployed 302A, they closed the PTS. 3.1, no warning. And next up will be the PTS for 3.1.1, which will presumably launch 3 weeks after 3.1. So it looks like in 3.1, all we're going to get are class balance changes for Shadows Assassins, Jugs and Guardians, and just a tanking tree in both, or tanking discipline in both. So not quite sure how to take that, and it was odd that they closed it with a warning. So yeah, not really sure what to think of that. Anyway, so also, moving on, Rishi exit location for the flagship. As I commented last week, if you move your flagship to Rishi, the only 2 choices you get are a couple of out-of-the-way places. You cannot set the exit point to Rishi Town, the place where you actually turn up. So they're going to fix that, or at least look at it. We had a... yeah, we'll cover it this week, and then we'll do the feedback. Werit from Werit's blog put together 10 questions, which he sourced from the SWOTOR subreddit, and sent them into BioWare, and BioWare did respond. He published the answers on Reddit as well. And they were mostly answered, apparently, by lead designer Jesse Sky for BioWare. Now, we didn't say much, but what he did say was interesting and a little bit different in some cases. Someone asked, when will 12 times XP return and in what form? And the response was a kind of non-response. He said, the overwhelmingly positive response we got from the class story leveling event demonstrates just how much people want to focus on their personal story. We'll be talking more about what that means later this year. So what about 12 times XP, and when is it going to come back again? We heard it would be early this year. That had been mentioned, and this is saying I don't know what. It's like, instead of 12 times XP, they're going to do something else instead. Yeah, so don't know what to do with that. Second question. Right now, the collections, achievements, and crafting windows are all sorted in collapsible categories. This would be great, but the fact that the menus always start fully expanded is very frustrating. Why was this decision made, and is there any chance of this changing? And I've got to say, he's absolutely correct, 100%. If there was one change they made for quality of life, this would be it. Actually, there's probably quite a few, but this one is annoying, especially with collections. Also with crafting. Yeah, anyway. But we got an actual good answer from this. And this is what Jesse Sky says. In order of preference, he would like to see, remember what I had open collapse last time, start with all collapse, or have a collapse all button. It would be he agrees it would be a huge quality of life improvement for crafters and completionists. So that applies to the achievement window as well, of course. And yeah, so he says they're painfully aware of the issues with these windows. We're working on some improvements. It actually requires a lot of rework to the way the data's loaded in the window, da-da-da. It's hard, but they're going to try and fix it. So that's good. Big thumbs up for that. Skip that one. What can you tell us about the costume system? We're not talking about that right now, but if we were, we'd be very excited about it, Jesse said. So, that means the costume system is probably coming. Now, what that means is instead of having our gear basically moddable, where you have to pull the mods out into the particular piece of gear you want, you'll have an additional set of slots for items which you will put in, and that's what people will see. Or they'll somehow capture the appearance of those items. Rather than, so where this leaves mods, I don't know. They would basically, aside from moving mods around just for min-maxing, there would be no reason to move mods anymore, which would be great. And you could just then have the look that you wanted and have multiple costume sets. That's certainly what Lotro does. You can actually have a wardrobe with different, like several different costumes that you can just flip between them, so people see different things. But you can, your actual gear is what determines your stats, not what your costume is showing. So that would be great. Next, are there any plans to backport a solo mode to the older flashpoints in the game? It basically says, yeah, it'd be great, but no. Yeah, no promises there and very unlikely. They asked whether old operations of flashpoints can be scaled up into level 60 content in a way that will still allow level 50 and 55 players to experience the original content while providing more options for in-game content at 60. Yeah, like we want to go into Dread Palace of Fortress again, but I guess given enough time, the old could become new again.
See how many bugs we can get in SOA.
I thought it was all fixed. Actually, no, it's not, is it? Anyway. Jesse says, we are discussing how we can give you more options for playing our in-game content at high levels. I can't go into details yet. So it sounds like they are thinking something along these lines, but they're not saying what. So it could be scaling down, it could indeed be scaling the old stuff up. Whatever it is, that would be fantastic if they did. The more operations that are available, they're actually worth doing. Fantastic. Can we get the ability to search for companion gifts? And he says I'll try and improve it, because at the moment best you can do is sort under miscellaneous, and you can't break it down to the different types. Next, gameplay-wise, Treek is basically the best universal companion there is, etc. And he says Treek is pleased with your assessment, but she takes umbrage at the suggestion that anyone could ever match her fighting prowess. And he goes on to say, they're looking at some ways to give you more flexibility with regard to which companions are most effective for you in combat. Treek's universal applicability was originally intended to ensure that she did not suffer from the problem of being redundant or incompatible with your selected combat role. Well, they certainly went too far in the other direction. And he says they would generally like you to be able to use a companion of your choice. Now, the best way of doing that is make any companion able to take any of the three roles, tank, healer, or DPS. At the moment, obviously, they are one, melee or ranged DPS, melee or ranged tank or healer. So if they could just make it a switch, they could flip for any companion, that'd be great. So you could really have the companion that is your favorite, rather than having to pick the one that is most cost-effective, or, sorry, most effective, Treek, or HK in some cases. Ninth question, what's the roadmap for operations? Full year of Fortress Dread Palace and even more Nightmare mode added during the summer months. The content got stale pretty quick. Can we expect new raids? Not just the Nightmare versions of existing content in 6 months or a year, I suppose 14 months. And he says, having just launched an expansion with 10 new op bosses is not one of our immediate concerns, but we have plans to shake things up a bit before the end of the year. That is not what we wanted to hear.
Doesn't this go back on what they previously had said?
They said they did not want as big a gap. We interpreted that as being every 6 months or so. This is suboptimal.
I told you. 6 months till the nightmare. New ops at the end of the year.
That is really disappointing. I'd say suboptimal, in fact.
Totally to be expected.
I would say unacceptable.
Yeah. At least, I would like at least one more operation, even if it's only got 5 bosses midway through the year.
But, I mean, they have come up with the interesting way of gating the content, making it so hard to get through because of weird crosses and things happening. So it might last us all year.
Yeah. Maybe it will, actually. At least the hard modes. And then the nightmare modes on top of that. Alright. And when can we expect to see the Nashadar Nightlife event again? Probably see it again this year once I've stockpiled enough credits, Jesse says, and they've already promised it's going to be yearly anyway, so we knew it was coming back. Alright, finally, as a news item, Hilary Nicole, also known as Pocket, is leaving BioWare as the community coordinator. Her last day was, in fact, today. Now, she said on her Twitter stream, it was her actual choice to leave. She wasn't fired or laid off. It was because she wanted to explore other options. She was there a good 6 or 7 months, which is, I think, the length of the contract. I believe it was a contract position, or at least that was originally advertised. Sounds like it was all very positive from her side. She was very happy with the experience, and etc. So as far as her role, Kate Watson is now the contact for guilds, and Courtney Woods is the contact for fan sites.
Is this a copy paste? It is. So she says, I learned so much from myself and others.
It's probably a typo.
I'm just saying, that just really sticks out to me. First thing she says, I learned so much from myself.
Yeah, she
didn't go somewhere else to learn more from myself.
Freudian slip.
No, it's a BioWare post. It's straight up a BioWare post. These are the edits I tell you they always miss.
This was on Twitter, not BioWare post. She didn't actually put anything
on
the forums.
BioWare post.
Yeah. Anyway, we've already got a great email from Courtney, so it sounds like they're going in really positive direction in terms of fan site communication. So that's great. And yeah. Anyway, community news. Thanks to Damon Homer for nominating us for the People's Choice Award in the 10th Annual Podcast Awards. If you'd like to nominate us as well, or your favourite podcast, go to podcastawards.com by February 2nd, which I believe is Groundhog Day. Coincidence, no doubt. Now, we also have a promo to play from The Boomy Show, a new podcast from a gentleman who goes by the name Boomy, who plays 3 MMOs. He plays WoW, Star Trek Online, as well as Star Wars The Old Republic, of course. So here's Boomy. Insert promo here. So I did listen to it. It's actually quite entertaining. He does a lot of voices, and so it's good comedy value, as well as talking about the various games. Now, finally, you may have noticed the Utini Rage from last week's show sounded unlike any of us on the show. That was actually from JD, Gadok Tig of the Unnamed SWTOR podcast. So if you do want to contribute your own, as has been suggested by Kuze most recently, please do so. And in fact, this week we have an Utini Rage from @Fredius to play, so we'll include that in the outro. Again, just send it to OotiniCast@gmail.com if you've got your own. And that will bring us to the force feedback section and chat room. If you've got any questions to ask, we'll be gathering them now to ask once we're done with the feedback, which will be, and then we'll conclude the show. All right. What's the time? All right, rolling through it. Firstly, from X206. To answer Turg's question about Underlurker, the off-tank does not need to be in tank discipline for the cross to fire correctly. I run tactics spec on my Vanguard for this fight and stand where the off-tank should stand, and it works fine, you know, if it decides to work in the first place. This calls back to the tip and the advice we got from Madmar. So yeah, you just need someone behind, doesn't have to be a tank, and given the tight DPS on that, or the tight enrage on that fight, or at least you really want to get them down before they kill you, that wouldn't hurt to run with an extra DPS. Greg, this is from our guildmate Greg Carter. Happy with the companion gear rewards from Yavin. Always had trouble gearing them up, and I'm motivated to get more tunes to 60, given you can use that 192 gear at 55, which I still think is really weird, but can't complain. Jessica of the Nestinar Guild on the EU server The Progenitor. Happy New Republic year to you all. I play an Arsenal Merc. How does a barrel affect the damage of abilities like Blazing Bolts? May the force be with you. So, the barrel. If she's talking about the barrel mod that you put into weapons, just like the lightsaber hilt you put into lightsabers, it contributes force power or tech power, and also has a rating associated with it. All of that affects your base damage and base healing. And so, for any given ability, which is usually some function of your base numbers, that's what it does. The higher the rating, the higher your tech power or force power, the higher the damage you do or healing you do. Unless there's something more simple here.
It is unique except for the armorings that go in your offhands. Basically, the armorings, the barrels, the hilts are all fundamentally like the most important individual item for any DPS or healer to get upgraded ASAP.
Yes, absolutely.
Single most important.
Next, from Edvin Hosvik. What do you guys think about macros and their absence in SWOTOR? I miss them and want them. Save up messages for easy repost, which is something I remember doing in WoW when we do have macros, or did have macros. I can live without them personally. I mean, I occasionally come across a use case where they wouldn't hurt, but I actually don't mind.
With the inability to stop spammers and the kind of harassment I've been dealing with, if I'd have to see that even more and more, I would be, yeah. I mean, it's already easy enough to do on a keyboard or a mouse that you own, and frankly, I've lived without it since the game came out, and I don't miss them anymore. There are little quality of life things I'd like to see, but honestly, they are things that BioWare could manage on their own if they cared to give it to us.
Okay. Bill?
I use peripherals that allow me to use macros for so I don't miss them. I've never played other MMOs, so I don't playing the sharpshooter tree. I have found that I could see a lot of benefit to using macros in my rotation. Actually, it's the first thing I've played that really I've seen a benefit from. I don't use them that way. I use them for emotes, things like that, but I don't miss them because I can program them into my hardware.
Indeed, and that is the answer if you can afford a piece of kit that allows that. And the Logitech stuff, for example, is actually quite affordable. And in fact, I believe there are probably software solutions as well, so you don't even need hardware to make it happen. And all are within the terms of service as long as one click each equals one action in the game, which I'm sure we will all conform with. Moving on. Pez says, adding to the tactical flashpoint corner cutting, do the first two Blood Hunt challenges simultaneously by splitting the group party into two pairs. Saves a little time at least. Not a bad idea. That's doing the tactical, so I suspect that won't work with the hard mode, which we'll get in 3.1. He also says, with the new companion set, you can now 2-man hard mode flashpoints. HK is a beast. Also, the craftable 186 joint parts are better than the 192 legacy reward set. At least the purple versions, which are the 196. Yeah. So, wow. The screenshot he provided was of Ricardo Prime. I wonder if you can do the others as well, 2-man. It would be interesting to try. Quite a challenge.
Solo.
Now, that I would like to see. I wonder.
It's easier. It's easiest as a tank with Treek. If you get Treek and 192 gear as a tank, and once you get your gear up, it could be possible. I'd like to see it. I'll try it as soon as my gear gets high enough on my tank.
All right. Okay. We had an email from Ilmarinen. Now, he said, just wanted to say thanks for your discussion of the ranked Warzone stats a few episodes back. It was great to hear some of you and your guests' comments and feedback too. Now, Ilmarinen was a guy who actually provided the analysis of the stats. He is the statistician who actually did them. So thank you, sir. He said it was also interesting that he felt the draft version of the stats that they did while Season 3 was still ongoing got more attention, both in Reddit and forums, than the finalized ones. Could be that while it affected them immediately, what's overpowered now, who's winning now, it had more emotional punch than talking about the past. Once it's over, the mental horizon, and people are looking forward to the next season. Of course, it could just be a matter of timing. If someone is posted in fellow times, it can fall off the front page quick and not catch attention, as in Reddit, or a bit of both, or neither. Also wanted to say good job on the theory crafting episode. It was so refreshing to hear both Ufalong and Keyboard Ninja approaching mechanics with the correct attitude and some professionalism. The points about people basing assumptions off a misunderstanding of how to use parsers and of how diminishing return works echoed a few discussions I've had. Yes, understanding that is good. And again, we would always recommend the theory crafting roundtable. And judging from the download numbers, it was very popular.
Yeah, and,
very popular.
And actually quite a few have even watched it live on my saved Twitch version, like 150 or more, which blows my mind that they sat and watched the video and you can't listen to that at fast forward or anything.
Indeed. He says, all the best and never tell me the odds unless it's about crit chance. So thank you, sir. Now, speaking about the Theory Crafting Roundtable and Keyboard Ninja, his ideal tank stat distribution post actually got deleted from the official forums along with the roles forum. There was a post from Musco who said the web team was working on some forum optimization, including removing some of our old unused forums. We've got a lot of hidden unused stuff behind the scenes. Unfortunately, this forum was affected when it shouldn't have been, and they're unsure if they're able to restore the posts, but they're trying. Yeah, that's rather unfortunate. Anyway,
they deleted it too.
Oh, anyway, he has reposted it, which I will link to. It's now available on our sidebar on OotiniCast.com, and Dave Fiend has included it in his tank stat calculator, which I'll also link off our sidebar on OotiniCast.com. Now, just a point, there is a news item I want to go back to, and I'll just tack it on the end, and then we'll call it good. All right. Yeah, not much more. Jay Connell says, this new app is worth a shout-out. Makes surfing the SWTOR forums on the go a breeze. It's called the SWTOR HoloNet, and it is iPhone only. So, boo. Big boo for us Android users.
So 80% if you can't use this.
But anyway, for you, those of you with iPhones or any other iOS device, it's just a app for browsing SWTOR forums. It is, of course, free because no one can profit from SWTOR legally. So yeah, we'll link to it, of course. It's actually open source. He's got the source on GitHub. So if anyone wanted to do an Android port, that'd be a great thing.
I don't know. Is it really worth it to see what they put in those forums? There's some pretty horrible people in the world.
F. Masker says, if I buy items that only subscribers can buy, but I stop subscribing, will I still be able to use them in a free-to-play account? Now, that's a very good question. Typically, anything you have unlocked, you get to hang on to. That is, items that are bound to you. The big restriction is on purple artifact items and purple mods. If you haven't purchased the artifact authorization unlock, which can be per character or account wide, you will not be able to equip anything that you've got that's purple from that point if it's unbound. So once it's in your gear, you're fine.
Highly recommend on the OotiniCast forums under our guides section. We have the converting to free to play, which, by the way, you won't be free to play. You'll be preferred, so you do get some bonuses from that. But if you read that guide, it will tell you each of the items that you'll want to purchase off of the GTN before unsubbing, because it'll make it the smoothest possible for you.
But for the most part, it's not too bad going back there. So
no.
Yeah. But then again, remember, everything is 25% more expensive in terms of repairs, etc. And you will not get the 25% subscriber bonus to XP. You will not get rest XP.
Well, and it's more important to mention, too, that, like, It's not just repairs and whatnot. It's also items that you purchase. It's also comm item that you purchase. So like Warzone items. For me, it's like 3,250 for the main hand. For a free to play or preferred, it's 25% more, which is ridiculous when you're talking ranked Warzone comms. There's a lot of stuff that those percentages get painful really quick.
Indeed. So yeah, probably the most painful one is not being able to do an in-place revive when you're out in the open world if you're just leveling.
Yeah.
Yeah, you actually have to purchase those. And the credit cap, of course. So yeah, lots of good reasons to subscribe, as it turns out. But anyway, Tony says, do you get spam in your SWOTOR in-game mail? And the answer would be yes. At least on the Harbinger, this seems to be turning up quite often on all my characters, and always click the report spam button and choose spam as opposed to harassment as the option. At least you can do that with mail, as Red was talking about earlier. Sadly, not the other avenues of communication. Finally, in the feedback, there's a Twitter feed I follow called You Had One Job, @_You Had One Job, one word. And he included a picture of for when you need to use the Force, and they had a couple of plungers that look like lightsabers. And I thought they were awesome. That is an excellent Twitter feed. I can't recommend it highly enough. Just for general stuff. He doesn't often talk about Star Wars. All right, now we are going to do one more news item, and then we're going to call it good. That news item is someone I actually kind of managed to skip. Unless I've accidentally deleted it. It was about PvP in... Yeah, here we go, PvP plans. Yeah, I did miss it. Alright, next, some PvP news, which I'm sure all the PvPers are happy to have. And just talking about the future, this was from Alex Modney, and he says Season 4 is planned to last roughly 3 months. That is our current season. It will start with Game Update 3.1, and it will end with Game Update 3.2. And as of right now, 3.1 is planned to go live in about a month. So that was roughly 4 weeks after 3.02. We expected only 3 weeks, so I'm, again, not sure what that actually means, but whatever. So Season 4 will start with 3.1. After the end of Season 4, they normally have a pre-season lasting a few weeks or whatever, but with Season 5, they're just going to roll straight into it. There will be no pre-season because there will not be another tier of PvP gear, which would be usually why they leave the gap. So yeah. So Season 4 will last for however long, and then they will it will last for about 3 months, and then they will go straight into Season 5. Which hopefully between Season 5 and 6 maybe we'll get a new tier of gear. We'll see. Sorry. Clearly I've been talking too much. And he goes on to say he wanted to assure you that we continue to read and value your feedback when it comes to ranked PvP experience and reward suggestions. Two of the adjustments they made will be enacting is that the top 96 title in Season 4 will be class-specific, meaning rather than just the same title for all 96, there'll be something that reflects what actual class it was that you were top in, the top 3 in. And secondly, the Tier 3 rewards will actually have a floor. That is, at the moment, or in the previous season, there were 3 tiers, and the bottom tier, everyone got it. Will have got any kind of rating requiring you do just 10 games. Didn't matter if you lost all 10. In Season 4 and presumably onwards, you will actually have to achieve some baseline to actually get the 3rd tier of rewards, the lowest. Well, as he says, these are minor adjustments to be sure, no kidding. But nevertheless, it's an example of the upcoming changes based on your feedback.
So there's still free gear in Season 4? I mean, free rewards.
If you achieve a certain level, yes. Depends where they set that threshold. If they make it reasonably high, you will actually have to win some. You can't just sort of turn up.
season 4.
Oh, it's
Very
in season.
fast
Okay, so
daily.
season 4 they
Oh.
will be starting a baseline.
No,
Is that true?
you are correct. That applied to season 5. Season 5. Season 4, yes, you're right. We'll have the free awards. Yes.
So in another 4 or 5 months, we might have a PvP environment where you don't have people queuing 10 times for no reason.
You never know. You never know.
On the
I'm really
season
glad to see
4
that change. It's
maps.
like, although frankly, I still wouldn't. Well, I don't know. There's so many other problems with it, but at least the queues are popping, and I'm glad they're not just giving out free candy.
I agree. I agree. All right, and he finally says, be on the lookout for more updates regarding ranked PvP in the future, including rewards and other developments, whatever that means. Very excited, blah, blah. There you go. So, not a lot of news, a couple of minor adjustments, which are both good, I guess, but, yeah.
So they're
Anyway.
still adapting and improving how the ranked seasons work, but we have no word of anything to do with new stuff in ranked.
Indeed.
Okay.
Or non-ranked.
Or non-ranked, yeah, sorry.
Or
In PvP
GSF.
in general.
Like a new Warzone, say, or 2.
Well,
or
we know.
something.
I mean, GSF is an issue not even worth mentioning because they have been very clear that there is nothing in development for GSF right now, though they are discussing some things. So, don't get your hopes up for GSF until the end of the school year earliest.
Guess we'll just have to wait and see. All right, gentlemen, that is where we're going to leave it. Don't stop your recording. Just keep recording. We'll just do the sync up after we take the call off the air or the live stream. Thank you, everyone, for watching. It's a bit of a strange episode with Chill having to bail because of his nasty cold. He's running a fever. We do wish him the best and hope he is feeling better, especially for next week. So, normal recording next week, and that's when we'll be talking about the exploits and your community responses to it, which we kind of skipped this week. So thanks for listening, and we will
Any of
talk
you
to
that are
next week.
listening live, please feel free to contact me any means necessary if you wanted me to do anything while I'm in San Antonio for PAX South.
Good call. All right, stopping the broadcast.